All right, welcome back to the Unstuck movement. I am your host, Rob Z. This platform was created for you to find the strength to break through those barriers that have been holding you back in your life, to break the chains that may have been holding you back. So I'd love to bring amazing people on this podcast who have incredible stories of transformation and breakthrough. How did they get unstuck? And I hope that story helps you to get unstuck at whatever area you're stuck at in your life. I got to thank the Connected Leaders Academy, the CLA, for making this podcast possible. Jose Escobar, make sure you reach out to him. I'll tag him in the show notes. Connected Leaders Academy, check them out. I've had life-changing experiences and met amazing relationships from that group. So make sure you invest some time in understanding what the CLA is all about. And speaking of investing some time, today I have an incredible guest with me, Mr. Bernie McGraw. So Bernie is a dedicated executive and health coach who brings over 3 decades of experience to guide individuals on their paths to well-being. With a remarkable 38-year tenure as a worship pastor, he seamlessly combines his passion for spirituality and leadership. Bernie is married for 35 years, is not only a loving father of 5, but also a cherished grandfather to 7, embodying a life rich in family, faith, and service. Bernie, thank you so much for being a part of the Unstuck movement.
Rob, it's excited to be here. I've enjoyed connecting with you, and there's nothing more powerful than a story. And I always count it a privilege when I can share my story.
Yeah, I love the stories of breakthrough, the stories of perseverance that people have, because it inspires us, right? That's where we get our inspiration for ourselves to continue to grow and take ourselves to new levels of breakthrough in our life. And as with every episode on this show, I love to start with a question, because I feel like if you ask the right questions, you get the right breakthrough in your life, you find the right answers. And I love what you had said to me when we were leading into this conversation about that one yes that did everything for you. So I want to ask you, how can one yes change your life? And how did one yes change your life? How did that lead to you getting unstuck?
Well, Rob, I think it's sort of like everything in life. We can think about change. We can think about what we need, what we want. But thinking about it isn't really enough. A decision has to be made. And so I've learned that throughout 60 years now of life, that it's really all about decision, no matter what area of life you're talking about. And so for me, as you mentioned, I served as a worship pastor for 38 years, just stepped down from full-time position in July of this year. But I have to take you back a few years. So 6 years ago, right about this time of year, I was very, very stuck in my health, which caused me to be very stuck in my emotions and my mindset, my quality of life, everything about it. Very kind of a darker season for me, and I'm not really prone to that direction per se. But just really the stress and the emotion of life got to me, and we all have go-tos, right? When we have the stress moments, the disappointments. And so mine tended to be more based on food. So I grew up in a very strict kind of environment in a church world. And so I didn't have a lot of vices that a lot of people have. So my vice, the one that was acceptable in the local church, was food. And so anyway, long story short, I found myself right then 6 years ago, 75 pounds heavier than I should have been. I was on 5 meds for blood pressure and cholesterol, pre-diabetic, and just really, really miserable. And my wife and I had won a trip to Mexico from buying a car at a certain dealership here in this area. And I didn't really think it was real, but it was. We actually got a trip to Mexico. So I'm on Mexico at the beach. My wife said, "Hey, I got to go take a call." She's a realtor. I thought she was doing some real estate work. Well, come to find out. So I'm at the beach praying, God, I need to do something in 2018. I got to do something. I can't live life like this. I was miserable. It's weird how that our physical side connects to our emotions, which connects to our spiritual, which really connects to every area. So long story short, I'm praying that prayer. Little did I know she was actually on a phone call with a friend that she hadn't connected with for quite a few years. And that friend was actually a health coach, telling her about a certain program. And my wife's getting the download to my prayer. as I'm making a prayer on the beach. So long story short, jumped on a program just to lose some weight. And little did I know that one yes truly was a life transformational yes. Because what it did for me personally, yeah, I lost 76 pounds, cleaned up my blood work, felt so much better wearing clothes that I wore in high school, which is kind of crazy as a 54-year-old man. But better than all of that, it was sort of like I did an internal reboot of my emotions and my mindset. So that yes energized everything about my life. And even the way I led worship just really invigorated who I was. So the power of one yes has a way to duplicate itself and kind of a ripple effect, so to speak. So that was probably one of the most powerful yeses I ever made. It was that one on the beach that day. And I made it before I had the answer. So I just want to encourage somebody who's listening today. Obviously, it doesn't have to be in the area of health, but sometimes we have to make the decision in our mind first and our heart first, and then the answer actually comes.
Yeah. Making the decision to say yes is a huge step, but all the work that comes in after saying the yes is obviously the path that gets you there, right? So that's really interesting that you were praying about that on the beach while she's making the phone call and the connection. So I guess I'm curious, just for my own curiosity, with you and your wife, like that spiritual connection the two of you have together. Has that been something that has been going on throughout your relationship, where you notice God working with the two of you, and some synchronicity there between the two of you when things are happening in your lives?
Yeah, I think, the nice part of marriage, let me just preface by saying no marriage is perfect. So 35 years, we've had good, bad, ugly, so to speak. But we've stuck through things, and so what I find many times is certain areas that I might be weak and she's strong, vice versa. And so there's that healthy balance. And she literally told this lady that she was talking to, she said, Bernie's never going to do this. He will not do this. So she didn't even tell me about it until like 8-10 days later. And what happened was she actually gave me that as a Christmas gift. That was my Christmas present, was my first month on this program. But she didn't want to tell me because she was afraid I wouldn't do it. But little did, the yes enabled me to say, well, I want to get to a destination, and I can't choose the car in which I'm going to get there. So it was kind of like, okay, God, it was really a no-brainer. But I'm just thankful that, that there was that level of working together, and it was her love. She could see what was happening to me internally, not just physically. She wanted me to be happy. And so I think there was a working together on that for sure.
And, being in the state of health that you were in, I think this is really important for people to hear too, because it affects every single part of your life. And there's something much deeper to it, right? It's not just being unhealthy physically. It starts from something unhealthy inside of us. So what was that for you? And you can go as far into that as you want to, or as surface as you want to, but I'm curious because I know the outside always reflects the inside. What was it about what was going on with you that kept you in that stuck place?
Well, being in serving as a worship pastor, there's just a lot of stress that can come along with that. So again, I use the phrase good, bad, and ugly. It's probably one of the most rewarding things you can do, but it's also one of the most stressful things that you can do. And so I think there was a compilation of a lot of things that led up to that. Part of the 38 years, there was really some heartache. There was some disappointments. And it just, I allowed the setting of disappointment to then come out in my habit structure, but it was really, an emotional part. It wasn't like a physical craving. I have to eat this, or I have to, it was literally an emotional based issue for me, because that was my go-to if I was disappointed, if I was hurt. It was just kind of one of those places. I think we all have what I term safe places that we go to when we're struggling. For some, it might be alcohol, drugs, pornography, whatever it might be. but that was mine. And so it was definitely a reflection of inside. And I think that was the concern for my wife at that time, was she saw me kind of isolating myself and really not having the involvement. I mean, I was here, kids getting married, grandbabies being born. I was happy, but some of it was being forced. Probably would have never admitted that I was maybe depressed, but looking back now that I'm in a healthy place, I could see that probably I was depressed and should have maybe handled things that way differently. But I'm just thankful that, you said it, that one yes really impacted who I am today in every area of my life. So
I love that, man, the snowball effect that comes from that. So you start to lose the weight. What changed? This is the kind of stuff I loved to hear about, because this is really the getting unstuck part of life. What changed with you as you were going through that process, right? So as far as the way you thought, the way you acted, I mean, of course, you probably had more energy, I'm sure those things improved, but like, as far as your mindset and outlook towards life go, how did things change as you started to get healthier? When did you notice, like, wow, I'm different than I used to be? I don't know what you want to use the word, come out of my shell or whatever that might be, but how is that different for you?
Yeah. It was just a few days in, literally, I started feeling different from a physical standpoint. And again, my whole idea is, in the Bible, it talks about we're the temples of the Holy Spirit, and you can't separate sections of the temple. So for me, when I started feeling better physically, and that was just literally in a matter of days, it gave me hope. Like, I felt like there was hope. Like, okay, I can actually change. I can actually get to a safe, better place. And so that obviously impacted the way my outlook on life. But then as the weight started coming off, some of the meds started going away, which was my motivation. So I had two motivations. Number one, I really felt, convicted that I'm on 5 meds just because I'm overweight. Like, there's not a physical reason, it was simply because I was overweight. So that was one of my whys. Second why was I just really wanted to be happy. I just wanted to show up in a genuine happy way. I led worship. Nobody probably would have known that I was struggling, except my, immediate family. But so it then began to, like, kind of move over to my emotions, and I started showing up in a confident way. Like, I had people say, man, you're leading worship differently. Well, yeah, it's because I actually felt better physically. I felt better, the confidence level was coming back to me. So it was you use the word snowball. That's exactly what happened. And then, my eyes were open to the need within our society of severe obesity and overweight. Numbers are crazy, and they're not getting better. This was 6 years ago. Those numbers are higher today than it was 6 years ago when I was a part of that process.
Yeah.
So, I started, people were like, man, what are you doing? And I was trying to do my own private little journey. Like, I didn't want anybody to be negative. And I also thought I might fail. So I didn't want to tell anybody. So for me, I'm just watching what I'm eating. It wasn't a lie, because I was watching what I ate, but I was being very specific in my habit structure. But there came a point where, like, God opened my eyes to the fact that, man, there's a lot of people that are hurting in their physical being, which is then affecting their emotion, which is then affecting their marriage, which is then affecting the way they are with their children. So this simple little diet ended up being something that it opened up a whole new arena of ministry for me that I wouldn't have had if I hadn't said yes. And so now I look back in 6 years of coaching, and just hundreds and hundreds of people that have been able to be impacted as a result of my yes. I don't say that from a place of pride. I say that from a place of encouraging somebody that's listening today that, that thing that you're thinking about, that decision you're in the process of praying about and seeking God about, or just whatever, man, that can really, really impact so many people if we kind of get out of the fear in our own mind and all of the stuff that comes along with decision making. Sometimes we just got to make that decision and see what God does.
Yeah. And, I love the saying, make your mess your message. And, our God is a God of redemption, right? He redeems things, and he takes the things that were meant to destroy us and turns them into things that are amazing for us, and also that help other people change their lives. And I just love the concept. Like, we're all given a mess in our life somewhere. I think every podcast episode I bring this up. We're all given a mess at some place in our life. And if we get through that, when we get through that mess, it turns into a message, becomes a miracle, and it turns into a message we can help other people with and help them find breakthrough in their lives. And God helps us do that. He walks us on that path and shows us, like, this exact place where that wound was in your life. Yeah. When I heal that wound, when you get past that wound, that you have so much strength in that place now. And you can speak from that place to go and help other people. And I just love that, man. I love that so much. What were some specific things? I'm just curious, as far as you and your health journey went. You said it was like simple things that you changed. What did you change that made it dramatic? Like, what was a couple of things that were like small changes that made dramatic results for you in your weight loss?
Well, for me, it was a very intentional program. So it just helped me really not have to think a lot about nutrition, because much of it was done for me, so to speak.
That sounds nice.
And then, yeah, it was so easy. It was like, what I feared most was, it was just such a simple thing. It was kind of like, yeah, I can eat that this often throughout the day. So, it was just being more intentional. And it's interesting because then it created what I used to not want to do, was move my body, because I felt I just wanted to get on the couch. And that was my, get home from my job or rehearsal or whatever, just sit on the couch and watch TV. So what it did for me was then it again, I'll use the word snowball. It went into the, my wife and I, would walk, regularly. I always enjoyed that anyway, but then I'm like, man, I kind of want to run. And I'm like, I've never been a runner. Where's this coming from? And I remember calling my coach and saying, man, Brian, I really want to run. He's like, well, you just let the program do its work. And so anyway, one of the most rewarding things was, I kind of got to my goal in July of that year. And then I did a 5K turkey trot with my coaches, husband and wife, their two daughters. And then my family, most of my family, all did a 5K for Thanksgiving that year of 2018. And it was really one of those pinnacle moments of like, wow, because now I'm watching for my family and my grandkids, like, all that I was bad. I was the bad dad with like, hey kids, you want to go to Burger King? You want to, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I was like way too often, way too habitual with that. And so now I'm watching my kids raise their grandkids in a much healthier way. And again, I don't want to act like I'm this perfect, my grandkids were over and they made decorated sugar cookies for Christmas and, lots of frosting and stuff. So, I'm not coming from that place of perfection, but it certainly allowed me to, in moderation, be able to enjoy life. But it just was one of those things, and you can't hide 76 pounds lost. So I finally had to come to grips with the fact that people were asking and that I had an answer. And if I didn't share the answer, the interesting thing too, Rob, is with things like that, it's really about trust. Like they may not even know about the program that I did, or they may not know anything about it. And I had a couple of people say, I've never done something like this, but I trust you, and I know that you wouldn't do something weird. And if this worked for you, it's going to work for me. And so it just enabled me to help people all throughout my family and the three churches that I served, to find some freedom and some hope maybe that they needed in their life.
Well, that's what I love too. It wasn't like a pill or something you were taking. It was just like natural things that helped to change dramatic changes that happen slowly over time.
Yeah. And it's something that was sustainable. So I can, I may not eat the same type of food the last 6 years, but it's been something that it's sustainable in such a way that it set me up for a lifetime of success if I just make good choices. Sure. So yeah, it wasn't like something that I would only do for a certain amount of time and then not do it again. It literally changed habits so that I can be successful. And that was 6 years ago. It'll be January 4th was my starting day. So January 4th will be 6 years.
Amazing.
And I've been able to maintain
a true New Year's resolution, right? They
Yeah.
usually don't stick.
Yeah, definitely. And each January I go back on our program for a month just to kind of, clean up anything from Christmas and mainly for mindset, just to kind of get my mindset focused from kind of the fun of the holidays and kind of, I'm a big mindset person. So it just helps me get back into creating goals for the year. And it's so weird that food plays into some of those things, but for me, it really does. I mean, just when I dial in my nutrition, I'm so much better at every area of my life. I'm more disciplined in my walk with the Lord, my finances, my relationships. But then you get me off track that way, and I look and I'm off track in a lot of ways. And so it's interesting how a simple habit like that can make or break somebody's life.
Yeah, really. And it's and plus, especially in church culture, there's a lot of food usually. There's a lot of food involved, and it's usually not great food.
No.
And it's hard to resist.
It's the acceptable sin, I'm not saying food is sin, but I do think the Bible talks about the word gluttony a little bit, and but we're not really good at that message in the local church. So it's been eye-opening, and it's actually interesting because I actually got ridiculed a little bit from well-meaning Christians, and I think it comes with everything else. With every decision that you make, with every yes that you make, there's always going to be somebody that will contradict your yes.
Sure.
And for me, I love, because what happened after that fact, Rob, was then a couple years down the road, I think I told you this the other day when we were chatting, but I really took a nosedive into who Bernie was. So it's one thing to lose a bunch of weight and, be happy about that. But then I realized inside there were things, definitely a strong people pleaser. Affirmation is really important to me. So, almost to a fault. So I started diving, it's one thing to shed weight, but then once that was dealt with, then I had to go deeper. And so that has been a game changer for me, is really being able to honestly, my wife and I did something together with that. We did a kind of a mastermind group that really took us into our personalities, and not in a weird way.
Is it like a love language kind of thing?
Yeah. I mean, they didn't use those phrases, but it really was, kind of seeing how God made us, but with everything, there's extremes.
Yeah.
And kind of bringing the extremes back into the way God made us. And so it was pretty cool. And so it's been an ongoing journey. It's coaching has helped with accountability. And now I have enjoyed the coaching process so much that I have pivoted and am now not in full-time ministry, but now I'm helping leaders and other pastors, executive, those type of people, kind of coach, giving them a safe place to process kind of their things.
And you and I talked about this the other day. It's interesting as you dive into the world of being a coach. God, the ultimate coach, steps in and starts to coach you more and more, starts to highlight things. You were just saying about that, the people pleasing mentality, totally me. Affirmations, totally me. And realizing that I would hinge how I felt on those things instead of just enjoying them. It was it would determine if I did something or not. Am I going to get affirmed from this? Am I going to get praise from this? And I need the praise to keep going, that sort of thing. Instead of just recognizing, I enjoy that. And, coming from my wife, that's wonderful to get praise. If I did something well, it's great. Give the glory to God, but do not base everything that I do on, if I don't get praise for this, I'm not going to do it. Or stop doing it because I'm not getting any praise for it, and feeling it's like an insecurity. So I guess maybe get curious on your end too. That for me was an insecure part of me that I'm still working through. Right? It's I don't need somebody to tell me. Basically, it's fear of man or fear of God, I think is what it comes down to. And I fear man more than I fear God. So I've been praying a lot about that. What are your thoughts on that?
Man, I 100% totally get it, totally understand it. And I think if the world was really honest, most people struggle, even people that come across so strong and confident, way down deep, there's a need to be loved. There's a need to be accepted. There's a need to have approval. And I really feel like for me, it wasn't from a sense of pride. maybe, I mean, the intention wasn't necessarily just to be liked or be accepted or whatever. It was more of, I really wanted, for instance, I'm a musician, singer, so there's a musical gift that you're presenting to people.
Right.
Christmas always got me in a real emotional kind of tug of war, because you're planning these productions, these concerts, Christmas Eve services, and you really, really want them to go well. You want people, I mean, that's just normal. I think, you want somebody to like your gift. But that could actually, sometimes I would struggle more in the holidays for that reason, because, will so-and-so really like this, or is this what they're looking for? Or so it was always a struggle. And I remember there was a Christmas Eve, things just didn't go well for various reasons. And man, it really messed me up. So I'm at home with my family Christmas Eve, and about an hour into it, I'm realizing, man, I got to shake this off. And it was just because somebody said something negative. I mean, it was something dumb. It was a leader, but said something negative. And here I am, I'm at home with my family in a negative funk on Christmas Eve because one person in the room said something. So it was a realization, do I let that one person control the way I feel and function? When 1,000 other people loved it, it was just one of those, and I had to literally just make a decision. You talk about a yes, I had to make a decision that, man, I'm going to enjoy my family. The Christmas season musically is done for me. What is done, and who liked it, who didn't. And, I can't do anything to change it, but I could change me. I could change the control. And I think that's the word that I use when I talk about this part of my life, is not letting the need for approval to actually control me. It might be there, but I try to put a ceiling on it where, it goes here and it's not going to control me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's really good, man, because the need for approval controls what you do, what you don't do, and then how you show up for other people.
Right.
And how you show up for yourself.
Yeah.
You're letting people rent all this space in your head.
Yeah. Instead
of living your life how you should be living, how God intended you to live it, without worrying about that sort of stuff. And that's when I had a realization. God kind of showed me you're fearing man more than you're fearing me. And I was like, oh yeah. And I need to break that. That's a constant prayer for me, because it comes up, especially being an entrepreneur, being a coach and things of that nature. It's there's going to be you have to hear so many no's to get a yes. So you got to get used to hearing those no's. So you got to be okay with that.
Yeah.
You had mentioned, I was just preparing for this. I love finding out what quotes people live by, or sayings that people live by. I find those to be fascinating because there's so much to be said in there. And the one that you share with me was from James Clear. Every action you take is a vote for the person that you wish to become. That comes down to that power of one yes, right? That yes was the action. You said yes to it. But that's so good, man. Every action you take is a vote for the person that you wish to become. So if you're taking the wrong actions, you're voting for you to be the wrong version of yourself. Mm-hmm. I read that this morning and I was like, wow, that's really good. That's really, really good. That just said something to me of, think of the voting process in anything, in elections or whatever it might be. It's you're inching yourself one step towards a decision. And so every bite you take, right? Everything you're eating or drinking or whatever, everything you're watching, everything you're consuming, you're voting all day long without even realizing it. We're constantly voting, taking every thought captive. You're constantly voting with your thoughts. You can vote a thought out. You can vote a thought in. It sparked a bunch of different things for me. What did that quote mean for you?
Well, I think we live in a society, and certainly been there myself, all the way from back to the Garden of Eden, where we like to blame. Yeah. We don't ever want to take ownership of our actions. And sometimes we think the best thing is making no decision, or if I don't make a decision, then I'm safe. Well, you are making a decision by not making a decision, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, or sometimes we think, we'll make decisions just that might hurt somebody else. They hurt me, so I'm going to hurt them.
Right.
Or, or we have those vices that we go to, and in reality, we're actually hurting our family, but we're actually hurting ourselves too. So I think his book, was from Atomic Habits, an incredible book on habit structure, not just for weight. It talks about everything. For those of you, those that are listening, maybe from a faith background, it can deal with, your spiritual habits, your financial habits, how do you save? How do you spend? It all starts with one vote. And we vote every day on numerous things and without realizing it. And that's why it's called a habit, because it's just done habitually without us thinking about it. Most people drove to work the same way they drive to work every day. They just put it on autopilot and got there without thinking of how they got there. And that's just the way we choose a lot of times to live our life. And I just got sick of living it that way 6 years ago. And that's why sitting on the beach, feeling very overweight with all these other people in their little Speedos, here I am there, feeling very uncomfortable. It was kind of one of those push moments where, okay, Bernie, you got to make the decision. And now, 6 years later, helping people along their pathway, and now even gave me the courage, honestly, that transformation, that yes, gave me the courage to make a decision to, after 38 years of doing something that I've done, which could be considered comfortable, safe, salary, benefits, security, to make a decision in over the last couple of years, but a decision in January this year to make a career change and to embark on something, which has then opened up a whole new, you just said it, about all the no's, when you're an entrepreneur creating some space, you have a lot of conversations, but you also have some no's, and that can create a whole new set of, so I certainly don't come from a place of perfection with these things, because it's an ongoing battle, but I just choose to let the other side win more than the other side, so to speak. And so that, yes, empowered me to 6 years later create a whole nother area of ministry. And it's exciting. It's just exciting to partner with people and just to be there. As
Well,
you know.
you're talk about helping people get unstuck, man. I mean, when somebody's overweight, like it's like you're trapped in your own situation, trapped in this thing you've been trapped in for such a long time. So I can't imagine the feeling you're getting from having people break through, the feeling you got from breaking through in that.
Nothing like it.
When you see somebody else get unstuck from that and break through that, I'm just feeling myself what that would feel like. The reward that would come from that has to be huge, to see that when somebody shows up differently, like they physically look different, they feel different, they act different. They're a different human, right?
Yeah, let me take 1 minute, and I'm just going to tell you a story. So a few years ago, I had a friend. Try not to go into too many details here, but I had a friend, a little older than me, and I could tell she'd been kind of watching my stuff, and you always kind of know that person has an interest, at least in what you're doing. And long story short, I got on a health assessment with her, and as you know, it was a friend, so I knew a little bit of her background, but it's sad that we allow so many years to go by with things inside of us that aren't dealt with. So her story was, when she was 6 years old, she was always kind of a bigger boned little girl. And her mom said something to her as a 6-year-old that went deep into her heart. So I'm on this health assessment with this lady who was probably 62. And one of the things we try to do on the assessments is to get to more of the root of, it's more than M&Ms and donuts and pizza. There's a reason sometimes that people go there. And she began to really, obviously it comes down to her being willing to share. But she told me that story with tears in her eyes of I've believed that my whole life, and here she is. She's a person of faith. She's served other women to bring freedom to other women.
Yeah.
She's a leader, and yet she believed that lie as a 6-year-old girl and had lived with it, hated food, hated her image, hated everything about all of that was associated with her physical temple. And, to help her be able to take a picture without feeling shameful, to be able to take a picture with her grandkids without hiding behind it. I mean, it's just, we have breakthrough in churches, obviously relationship with God for those that are faith-minded. But it's so weird how this diet can bring, if allowed, can bring breakthrough in much deeper areas and areas. And then when somebody gets this straight up here and this straight, it shows up in their body, in their temple. So it's a game changer. I avoided coaching. I just kept referring to people to my coach. And there was this one man in my church. It was like, "What are you doing? Like, what are you doing?" "Oh, no." He said, "What are you doing?" And he needed help. And I finally just had to come to grips with the fact that God was actually opening up a whole new platform of ministry. Because I do look at it as ministry. And I kind of, at that point, I could only tell him no like 4 times. I'm like, dude, just let it go. So and I think
you can only tell God no so many times, right?
Well, that's the bottom line.
He's like, "Come on, man. Come on, Bernie. Let's get it going." I'm trying to get you to launch this business.
It's been a game changer. It's been so rewarding. And I said this just a minute ago, but it's actually been a good source of accountability for me too. Because at this point, if I was to go backwards, and there's been seasons, I remember when COVID came, man, I wasn't in church. I mean, we didn't have Easter. It was the first Easter ever. I've not been in church. And so some of my kids were here, and, we're eating a little different. And here comes like 10, 12 pounds. It's like, I got to draw this in. So I called my coach, man, I need some accountability here. And, so it's certainly not a place of perfection, but it's actually been something that has kept me perhaps during rougher seasons from going backwards, so to speak.
Yeah,
so
it's a good thing, right? I mean, boy, being accountable is everything. Being accountable is really, really important. And it oftentimes, I mean, who wants to be accountable? When I was, I still wrestle with this. Like, I wake up every day and have to be accountable. It's like, you think you can look at it as a burden, but it's not a burden. It's a blessing to be accountable, right? It's a real blessing because it's not only helping other people, but you're helping yourself. And it's really, really cool to hear your story and how you've gone through this, man. I encourage people to reach out to you and talk to you about if it is weight loss or if it is coaching, whatever that might be. They just want to have a conversation with you. The best place to get a hold of you, as far as I know, is McGrawCoachingSolutions.com. Any other way you'd like them to reach out to you?
No, I mean, that's fine. They can certainly connect there and or follow me on, I'm on Facebook. Just my name, you'll find me there. Picture of my beautiful wife and myself, and as a profile pic. But I just encourage people. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen until a decision is made. And these are just certain areas that we've talked about today. But if I can just be honest, it's every area. Like, we can just think about it all we want. We can hope for it. We can wish for it. We can even pray for it. But God does not force anything on us. And so it always comes down to the yes from a heart before change takes place. And we always want to see the change take place, and then we give the yes. And that's not the way God works. It's always, you say yes, you come and let me change you. And we just don't always get to decide the car in which we ride during the change and to get to the destination. But I'm forever grateful. And, I just always encourage somebody, be the best you possible. Your family deserves it, but more than that, you deserve it. Like, you deserve to be the best version of yourself. And I chose at age 54 to tackle some really tough things in my life. And I'm 60 now, and I'm so thankful. It's a different world for me, different life for me. Yeah. And I'm just thankful to have that accountability. And accountability is not bad. I think we interpret, Rob, accountability as that I'm weak. Well, I am weak. That's why I was 76 pounds overweight. I was weak in that area, and I needed an accountability partner. Yeah. You might be a leader that is struggling with your business or your staff or your whatever. Sometimes you need to reach out. I've also found out in the last few months that people might assume that coaching is a sign of weakness, like linking arms with you as a coach, me as a coach. That's a sign of weakness. No, I have a coach. I actually have a coach that I talk to.
If you're a coach who doesn't have a coach, then you're not going to be a very good coach.
Yeah.
That's pretty much how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I unashamedly say I need help. I don't have all the answers, but I've leaned into people that can help me and guide me. And so I'm loving this stage of life, and just had my 7th, you mentioned it, my 7th grandbaby 3 weeks ago. So life is good. Life is really good.
Amazing. Bernie, well, thank you for coming on here. Thanks for being a friend. Thank you for sharing your story. And thank you for being a part of the Unstuck movement.
God bless you, man.